Well, for of all things, I think it's the most important thing that he was, he was a conductor, he was a composer, he was a pianist, he was many other things. But mostly he was a teacher. He's a great teacher. What he does is, first of all, we have a saying that, we call it hanging around Lenny. It means, you're just staying with him, and, wherever he goes, you just go. Being his student or assistant, he would bring you and being part of his entourage. And there was, that experience itself, you learn a great deal all the time, because he constantly talked about music. And when he was conducting Mahler, he became Mahler. When he was conducting, Brahms, he became Brahms. So the thing is, at the time, you don't really realize that you were learning. I remember sometimes I went to his house, and he was on the phone or doing something. I was practicing on the piano, some Bach, playing some Bach. He would come down, he would give me a lesson on Bach right away. And something like that. And it wasn't because we didn't play him, but he explained these things. He said, you could do this, you could do that, and blah, blah. So it is the great gift to being a great teacher, is to make things seems very trivial, but actually are very profound things. But for students to feel, it doesn't feel it's a burden of learning. It just kind of feels like, okay, now something that everybody can do.
I think the memories was being with the great master, Leonard Bernstein, which was pretty amazing moments. And I suppose the one moment that we remembered at that time, we went to his apartment, which was in the Dakota rooms, with a huge, huge building and huge apartment. It went on like a hotel. That's just his apartment. And he sat down and we talked, and he smoked and drank and smoked and drank, and it went on. I thought, oh my God. And someone said to me, he's afraid to put down the first beat. He can't do it. He was so nervous. We were all there sitting in around him, his singers and all his assistants with all pens and papers, and there's Lenny drinking and smoking, which is, I would kill anyone who did that right now. But there he was, he just couldn't put down the first beat to start the first rehearsal. And that was interesting, the great master who we were begging to sort of hear every single breath and word that he would speak. That was an amazing moment. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, Lenny, of course, was the most significant musical figure of the late 20th century, in my opinion, whose influence is indelible, and it is only now, as we approach the 25th anniversary of his death, are we really starting to see the great influence that his serious compositions had on music and on performers, not only his Broadway musicals like West Side Story, for which he's, of course, very famous. Lenny was premiering his final opera, A Quiet Place, in Houston. And I had the opportunity, through a musical colleague, to meet Bernstein at the beginning of his stay in Houston. It was a rather auspicious experience. It was kind of funny. I mean, Lenny was rather flamboyant and gay, and he was attending the Gay Men's Chorus of Texas barbecue swimming party. It was either going to the barbecue swimming party or not meeting Bernstein. So I took my bathing suit and I went. And fortunately, he wasn't just interested in me and my bathing suit, but he was interested in the music that I made. So I got to play the piano for him, and then we had many conversations. And he invited me to come and study with him. He was extraordinarily generous and respectful. And he traveled with his library. So every day he would pull out a score and he'd say, okay, today it's Shostakovich, today it's Brahms, today it's Beethoven, today it's Mahler, today it's Tchaikovsky, today it's even my music. And I studied much of his music with him. And if I had said to Bernstein, Maestro, in 25 years, I will be the one to premiere your Candide in Châtelet in Paris and in La Scala in Milano, I think he would have laughed, and he would have said, well, it's good wishful thinking. I hope it happens, but let's get to work. Well, we got to work, and he gave me great lessons about music, that following good music makes for a good life, and that each note should follow another note with inevitability, and loving the music, loving the intention of the composer, really getting a sense of what recomposing means when you're performing and interpreting. All of these different things he gave me. So, all good things come to those who wait.